There's a type of person Carl Jung warned us to be careful with. They enter your life like a hurricane of magnetism, awaken obsession, make you feel special just by being near them. But there's something sinister behind this irresistible attraction. These people never truly grew up. Jung discovered that excessively attractive individuals often carry a dangerous psychological immaturity, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. Why should you be careful with them? Because they live in a parallel universe where normal rules don't apply, where they never needed to develop empathy, responsibility, or emotional depth. They're eternal teenagers in adult bodies, manipulating without realizing it, destroying without intention. And the scariest part, you've probably already fallen for one of them. In this video, we'll unveil the dark side of extreme beauty and why Jung warned us, be careful with them. What you're about to discover might save your sanity. You've felt it before, haven't you? That strange exhaustion after spending time with someone incredibly attractive. Not the good kind of tired that comes from deep conversation or genuine connection, but something else entirely. A draining sensation that leaves you questioning your own worth, your own reality. Carl Jung understood this phenomenon at a level most people never grasp. He saw that certain individuals move through life taking emotional energy without ever giving anything substantial back. And the most dangerous part, they look so good doing it that nobody calls them out. These people learned early that their appearance opens every door. Smiles come easily, forgiveness arrives without effort. Consequences seem to evaporate before they ever land. So they never developed the internal mechanisms the rest of us build through rejection and failure. When a regular person acts selfishly, society pushes back. We learn boundaries exist. We discover that other people have feelings that matter just as much as ours. But the exceptionally attractive, they float through life in a bubble where their needs somehow always come first, where their tears carry more weight than anyone else's pain. Jung called this the shadow self, the parts of our personality we refuse to acknowledge. For most people, life forces us to confront our shadow eventually. We hurt someone we love and have to face what we've done. We fail at something important and must examine our flaws. These moments, painful as they are, forge maturity. They transform us from children into adults capable of genuine relationships. But the sexually magnetic chosen ones rarely face these moments. When they hurt someone, 10 others line up to comfort them and explain why it wasn't really their fault. When they fail, their charm convinces people to give them another chance, then another, then another. The vampiric pattern becomes clear when you watch closely. They share their problems, and you feel honored they trust you. You pour your energy into helping them, giving advice, offering support. But when you need the same in return, suddenly they're busy. Suddenly your problems seem complicated or heavy. They might listen for a few minutes before steering the conversation back to themselves. And because they do it with such grace, such apparent innocence, you blame yourself for expecting too much. Jung observed that these individuals operate from what he called the pure eternus archetype, the eternal child. In mythology, this figure never ages, never faces consequences, lives in a perpetual state of potential without ever actualizing anything real. The attractive chosen ones embody this perfectly. They talk endlessly about their dreams, their plans, their future selves. But years pass and nothing changes. They're still talking about the same dreams, still making the same mistakes, still leaving the same trail of confused and hurt people behind them. What makes them vampiric isn't intentional cruelty. Most of them genuinely believe they're good people. They feel their own emotions intensely and assume that depth of feeling equals depth of character. But Jung knew better. He understood that feeling deeply about yourself, while remaining shallow about others, is perhaps the most common form of emotional immaturity. These chosen ones cry easily, love passionately, rage dramatically. Yet somehow, when the storm passes They never remember the damage left behind. Other people's pain doesn't stick to them. It slides off like water off glass. The tragedy deepens when you realize they've been trained into this pattern since childhood. Beautiful children get away with behavior that would earn others punishment. Attractive teenagers find that tears or smiles can manipulate parents, teachers, and peers. By the time they reach adulthood, the pattern is so deeply ingrained they don't even recognize it as manipulation. To them, this is just how the world works. People naturally want to please them. Others naturally exist to meet their needs. And when someone finally sets a boundary, that person becomes the villain in their story, the one who didn't understand, the one who wasn't there when they needed them most. Jung warned that proximity to such individuals changes you. Slowly, without noticing, you begin to shrink yourself. You stop sharing your real feelings because they might overshadow the chosen one's mood. You solve your own problems quietly because asking for help feels like an imposition. You become smaller and smaller while they remain eternally the center, the sun around which everyone else orbits. And the most insidious part? You might even feel grateful for the chance to orbit them at all. The connection between these two patterns runs deeper than most people realize. The same mechanism that makes them emotional vampires also explains why they never truly learn from suffering. Think about how normal people process pain. You make a mistake, hurt someone you care about, and guilt gnaws at you. That guilt, uncomfortable as it feels, serves a purpose. It forces reflection. It demands you examine what you did wrong and how to avoid repeating it. This is how conscience develops, how wisdom grows from error. But the attractive chosen ones experience pain in a fundamentally different way. When they suffer, the world rushes to comfort them. Their tears carry an aesthetic quality that moves people deeply. Others want to fix their pain, to be the hero who restores their smile. So instead of sitting with discomfort long enough to learn from it, they're immediately soothed. The lesson never lands. The growth never happens. Jung recognized this as a critical failure in psychological development. He understood that we only truly mature through sustained encounter with our own darkness, our own capacity to cause harm. But these individuals never sustain that encounter long enough for transformation to occur. Consider what happens when they face consequences for their actions. A relationship ends because of their selfishness. A job is lost due to their unreliability. A friendship dissolves after one too many betrayals. For most people, these moments become turning points. We look in the mirror and acknowledge hard truths about ourselves. We commit to change because the alternative, continuing as we are, has become unbearable. But the chosen ones, they find someone new almost immediately, someone who doesn't know their history, who sees only the attractive surface, who believes this time will be different. This pattern creates a strange kind of suffering that goes nowhere. They genuinely hurt when relationships end or opportunities vanish. The pain is real. But it's the pain of a child who dropped their ice cream, not the pain of an adult confronting their own destructive patterns. They feel victimized by life rather than responsible for their circumstances. And because their attractiveness generates sympathy so easily, people around them confirm this victim narrative. Everyone agrees they deserved better, that other people failed to appreciate them, that the world simply hasn't recognized their true value yet. Jung described this as living in the persona, the mask we show the world, while never developing the true self underneath. For the attractive chosen ones, the mask works so well, they never feel pressure to build anything authentic beneath it. Their persona of beauty and charm opens every door. So why would they invest in developing genuine skills, real empathy, or substantial character? The mask becomes the whole person, and when pain arrives, it only damages the mask, never reaching deep enough to touch whatever might lie beneath. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. This inability to learn from pain reveals something far more unsettling lurking beneath the surface. Jung spent years studying what he called psychological age versus chronological age, and he discovered they often diverge dramatically in beautiful people. You might be looking at a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, even a 50-year-old body, but the emotional responses, the decision-making patterns, the core reactions to stress, all belong to someone much younger, sometimes shockingly younger. This creates a dangerous dissonance that catches people completely off guard. The seductive body promises maturity, experience, and depth. We unconsciously assume that someone who looks that good, who moves with such confidence, must possess equivalent inner development. Evolution wired us to read physical presence as an indicator of capability. But with these chosen ones, the promise is a lie. Behind the magnetic eyes and practiced smile lives a teenager, sometimes even a small child, operating the controls. And that child has been given immense power without any of the wisdom needed to wield it responsibly. Watch how they handle conflict when things don't go their way. Do they negotiate like adults? Do they consider multiple perspectives and search for compromise? Or do they pout, withdraw affection, or explode in disproportionate rage? These are not adult responses. These are the strategies of a 7-year-old who never learned better because tantrums always worked. The beautiful child cried, and parents gave in. The attractive teenager sulked, and friends apologized even when they did nothing wrong. The pattern calcified into adulthood, but nobody notices because the packaging distracts from the contents. Jung observed that real maturity requires what he called integration of opposites. We must hold contradictions within ourselves. We are both generous and selfish, strong and vulnerable, right and wrong. Adults develop the capacity to acknowledge their own complexity without fracturing. But the chosen ones never integrated anything. They remain split into the good self they believe themselves to be and the bad behaviors they somehow never connect to their identity. When confronted with something hurtful they did, they cannot hold both truths simultaneously. Either they are good, which means the accusation must be false, or they are bad, which feels unbearable. So they choose option 3. The other person must be lying, exaggerating, or too sensitive. This childlike splitting creates real danger for anyone who gets close. Children lack impulse control. They want what they want when they want it, and they cannot truly comprehend that other people are equally real, equally deserving of consideration. We forgive this in actual children because we know they're still developing. But when a full-grown adult operates from this same place, they can devastate lives while genuinely believing themselves to be the victim. They cheat and feel wronged when caught. They lie and feel betrayed when doubted. They take and feel abandoned when you finally have nothing left to give. The seductive body serves as camouflage for this dangerous immaturity. People see the adult appearance and make assumptions about adult capabilities. You share your deepest vulnerabilities, expecting mature handling. You trust them with your heart, assuming they understand its value. You build a life together, believing they possess the emotional tools for partnership. Then, slowly or suddenly, you discover the truth. The person you thought you knew never existed. You were in relationship with a child wearing an incredibly convincing adult costume. Jung warned that these individuals often seek relationships not for genuine connection, but for parenting. They need someone to manage their emotions, clean up their messes, and provide unconditional acceptance regardless of behavior. If you've ever felt more like a parent than a partner with an attractive person, this is why. The child inside them recognizes what they need and seeks it out instinctively. And because they look so good, because being chosen by them feels so validating, people line up for the role without realizing what they're signing up for. The real danger emerges when you try to leave or set boundaries. Children cannot handle abandonment. They lack the psychological resources to self-soothe or maintain perspective. So when you finally recognize the pattern and attempt to protect yourself, the child inside them panics. Sometimes this manifests as desperate promises to change. Other times as rage that you would dare withdraw your caretaking. Either way, the response is never proportional, never adult, never the kind of conversation that leads to genuine resolution. You are not dealing with someone who can take responsibility and grow. You are dealing with someone who wants their toy back. Understanding the dangerous child within these chosen ones illuminates exactly how they create such powerful bonds without any real intimacy. What Jung identified as perhaps their most effective tool is also their most unconscious one. They do not deliberately set out to trap anyone. They do not consciously strategize how to create addiction-like attachment. Instead, they simply exist as they always have, and that existence functions like a perfectly designed trap that catches people effortlessly, naturally, inevitably. The mechanism works through intermittent reinforcement, though they would never call it that. Psychologists discovered long ago that the most addictive reward pattern is not consistent positive feedback. Slot machines do not pay out every time. Drug highs vary in intensity, and the attractive chosen ones do not provide steady, reliable affection. Instead, they offer unpredictable moments of incredible connection, surrounded by vast stretches of absence or coldness. Your brain, desperate to recreate those peak moments, becomes obsessed with figuring out the pattern, earning the next hit of their full attention. When they finally look at you with complete focus, when they share something vulnerable, when they make you feel like the only person in their universe, the neurochemical rush rivals any drug. You feel chosen among all their options. Special. Seen. These moments burn into memory with unusual intensity precisely because they contrast so sharply with the normal state of affairs. The rest of the time, you exist in a fog of uncertainty. Are they interested or just being polite? Do they care or are you imagining it? The confusion itself becomes part of the addiction. Your mind cannot stop trying to solve the puzzle. Jung understood this dynamic as the projection of the anima or animus, the idealized inner image of the perfect partner. The chosen ones excel at becoming blank screens onto which others project their deepest fantasies. They reveal just enough to seem deep while remaining vague enough that you fill in the gaps with exactly what you want to see. They are not deliberately manipulative in this. They simply learned early that being everything to everyone, or at least seeming to be, generates the most attention, so they developed a chameleon quality, shifting slightly to match what each person needs without ever committing to a solid self. This creates a haunting situation where you find yourself addicted to someone you do not actually know. You are in love with the potential you see in them, the person they could be, if only the circumstances were right, if only you loved them well enough, if only they finally healed from whatever wound keeps them from fully showing up. But that person does not exist. You are chasing a ghost, and the chosen one benefits from your chase without having to provide anything real in return. Your addiction feeds their eternal hunger for attention while costing them nothing. The trap tightens through what appears to be vulnerability, but functions as manipulation. They share their wounds, their traumas, their fears. You feel privileged to receive these confessions. You believe you are seeing the real person behind the beautiful mask. But notice what happens next. Your protective instincts engage. You want to heal them, prove that not everyone will hurt them, demonstrate your loyalty. Suddenly you are working harder in the relationship than they are. You are the one making accommodations, offering patience, explaining away red flags. They shared just enough pain to recruit you as their savior, and you took the bait completely. Jung observed that this dynamic persists because it meets needs on both sides, though in deeply unhealthy ways. The chosen one gets endless supplies of attention, caretaking, and validation without ever having to grow up or give back equally. The person trapped gets to feel needed, important, special for being chosen by someone so desired by others. Both are avoiding real intimacy. Both are playing roles instead of showing up authentically. But because the attractive person holds more power in the dynamic, they face fewer consequences when the whole thing inevitably falls apart. Breaking free from this silent addiction proves incredibly difficult because your brain has been rewired. Those intermittent moments of connection created neural pathways as strong as those formed by substance abuse. When you try to leave, you experience genuine withdrawal, anxiety, obsessive thoughts, physical discomfort. The rational part of your mind knows this person is not good for you, but the addicted part does not care about logic. It only wants another hit of that feeling when they finally, briefly, gave you their full attention. And the chosen one, they barely notice you are gone. Someone else has already filled your spot, ready to fall into the same trap you just escaped. The addiction keeps people circling back, hoping for change. But those who stay long enough eventually witness something that changes them forever. There comes a moment, sometimes sudden and sometimes gradual, when the mask slips completely. The carefully maintained image cracks, and what you see underneath is not the wounded but beautiful soul you imagined. It is nothing, an emptiness so profound it makes you question everything you thought you knew about this person. Jung called this encounter with the void one of the most disturbing experiences a person can have, because it forces you to accept that someone can look so alive on the outside while being fundamentally hollow within. This emptiness manifests differently than depression or sadness. Those conditions have weight and substance. Someone who is depressed still possesses a core self that is suffering. But the chosen ones who never matured often never developed that core self at all. They built an elaborate persona, a performance of what a person should be, without ever constructing the foundation beneath it. They learned to mimic emotions by watching others. They memorized the right things to say in various situations. They perfected facial expressions that generate desired responses. But none of it connects to anything authentic inside. You start noticing inconsistencies that do not make sense. They tell a story about their childhood one way, then completely differently a month later, and seem genuinely confused when you point out the contradiction. They claim to have strong values, but violate them without apparent internal conflict. They express intense feelings that vanish without a trace hours later, as if those emotions never existed. At first you might assume they are lying, but the truth is stranger and more unsettling. They are not lying. They genuinely do not have a consistent inner world from which truth or lies could emerge. They are simply saying whatever feels right in the moment, and the next moment is a completely new reality. Jung described this condition as lack of integration, the failure to synthesize experiences into a coherent self. For most people, life builds upon itself. Today's experiences connect to yesterday's memories and inform tomorrow's choices. We develop continuity, a sense of being the same person moving through time. But for these chosen ones, each moment exists in isolation. They are whoever they need to be right now, with no thread connecting this version to the one from last week or the one that will appear tomorrow. This is why they never learn from pain. The person who made the mistake is not the same person facing the consequences. In their fragmented inner world, those are two separate beings. The terrifying part hits when you realize they might never know the difference. They have received so much external validation that they never needed to develop internal validation. They have no idea who they actually are because nobody, including themselves, ever required them to find out. Their sense of self comes entirely from mirrors, both literal and metaphorical. They know they are attractive because people respond to their appearance. They know they are charming because doors open. They know they are valuable because others compete for their attention. But remove all the mirrors. There is nothing left, no core, no center, no authentic self that exists independent of external reflection. This explains their desperate need for constant attention. They are not vain in the traditional sense. They are existentially dependent on others to feel real. When nobody is looking, when no one is responding, they start to disappear even from themselves. The panic this creates drives them to constantly seek new audiences, new sources of reflection. They cannot be alone, because alone means confronting the void where a self should be. And that confrontation is too terrifying, so they fill every moment with distractions, people, noise, anything to avoid the silence where they would have to meet themselves. People who witness this emptiness often describe feeling betrayed, but the betrayal runs deeper than simple dishonesty. You feel betrayed by reality itself. This person you loved, desired, built dreams around was never real. You were in relationship with a hologram, a projection, a beautiful shell with nothing inside. Everything you shared, every moment you thought was genuine connection, now seems like performance art, and the worst part, they probably do not even understand what you are upset about. To them, the performance is all there is. They do not grasp that other people have something more, something solid at their core. Jung warned that discovering this emptiness changes you permanently. You cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to believing in the beautiful illusion once you have glimpsed the void beneath. Some people flee immediately, unable to reconcile the image with the reality. Others stay, hoping they can somehow help this person build a real self. But you cannot build someone else's core identity for them. That work must come from within, and it requires willingness to face the exact emptiness these chosen ones have spent their entire lives avoiding. Most never do that work. They simply find new mirrors, new audiences, new people who do not yet know that nothing is there. After understanding the void behind the beauty, the question becomes urgent and personal. How do you protect yourself from these chosen ones without becoming cynical, closed off, or losing your own capacity for genuine connection? Jung believed this balance represents one of the most important challenges in psychological development. You must learn to see clearly without becoming blind to real beauty. You must protect your boundaries without building walls so high that nothing good can reach you either. This final piece holds the key to freedom. The first protection is awareness itself. Now you know these patterns exist. You understand that extreme attractiveness sometimes masks profound immaturity. This knowledge acts as a vaccine of sorts. You cannot become immune to attraction, nor should you try, but you can notice the warning signs early. When someone seems too good to be true, when the connection feels intoxicatingly intense right away, when you find yourself making excuses for behavior you would never accept from anyone else. Pause. Ask yourself if you are seeing this person clearly or projecting your fantasies onto an attractive surface. Real protection requires developing what Jung called the observing ego, the part of yourself that can watch your own reactions without being swept away by them. Yes, you feel drawn to this person. Yes, their attention feels amazing. Yes, you want to believe they are as special as they seem. But the observing ego asks questions. Does their behavior match their words over time? Do they show genuine interest in your inner world, or just enough to keep you engaged? Can they handle conflict maturely? Do they take responsibility when they hurt you? These questions feel unromantic, almost clinical. but they save you from wasting years on someone who will never truly see you. Boundaries become your strongest tool, but not the rigid walls people usually imagine. Jung taught that healthy boundaries are more like membranes, flexible but intact, allowing good things through while filtering out harm. With chosen ones, this means staying connected to your own needs and feelings, even when their magnetism pulls you toward losing yourself. It means saying no when something does not feel right, even if disappointing them creates temporary discomfort. It means walking away when patterns persist, despite promises to change. The chosen one will test these boundaries constantly, not always deliberately, simply because boundaries are foreign to their experience. Your consistency either teaches them something new or reveals they are incapable of learning. Protecting yourself also means cultivating relationships with people who possess genuine depth. Spend time with those who have done their inner work, who know themselves, who can be present without needing constant validation. These relationships might feel less exciting than the roller coaster of involvement with a chosen one, but they feed your soul instead of draining it. They remind you what real intimacy feels like, how much easier life becomes when both people show up authentically. This contrast makes the chosen one's emptiness more obvious and less appealing. Jung emphasized the importance of doing your own shadow work as protection. Why were you drawn to this person? What need were they meeting? Often people fall for attractive chosen ones because something in themselves feels incomplete. Maybe you doubt your own worth and their attention temporarily fills that void. Maybe you avoid your own development by focusing on fixing someone else. Maybe you confuse intensity with intimacy because real vulnerability terrifies you. Understanding your own patterns means you stop being an easy target. You recognize the game before you are fully caught in it. The hardest part of protection is accepting that you cannot save them. This realization breaks many people who get involved with chosen ones. You see their potential so clearly. You know, if they just did the work, faced their emptiness, built a real self, they could become extraordinary. But Jung understood that each person must choose their own development. You cannot want it for them badly enough to make it happen. Your love, patience, and sacrifice will not transform someone who is not ready to transform themselves. This acceptance is not cruelty. It is reality, and embracing it frees you to invest your energy in people who are already doing their work, or at least willing to begin. Finally, protecting yourself means keeping your own soul intact throughout this process. Do not let the experience with a chosen one make you bitter or closed. Do not start viewing all attractive people as dangerous or all intense connections as traps. Some beautiful people possess equally beautiful souls. Some passionate beginnings grow into genuine partnerships. The goal is not to shut down, but to wake up, to see clearly while remaining open to real love when it appears. Jung called this the integrated personality, someone who has encountered darkness without being consumed by it, who protects themselves without losing the capacity for joy. The truth is that chosen ones will always exist. Evolution continues producing physically attractive people, and society continues rewarding them in ways that prevent maturation. You cannot change this reality, but you can change how you respond to it. You can learn to appreciate beauty without surrendering your discernment. You can enjoy attention without becoming addicted to it. You can feel compassion for their emptiness without trying to fill it. This balance, this clarity, this grounded openness is the ultimate protection. Not walls, but wisdom. Not coldness, but consciousness. Not rejection, but recognition of what is real and what is simply a beautiful mask concealing nothing at all.